But yeah, Zico, you know what? Let's just spoil it. We got a Warlock coming in. How do you feel about this?
WizK on his Destro Warlock. I mean, this is something that the Golden Guardians used a little bit. Do you guys remember? They went on that kind of deep run towards the end of last year. They didn't have enough points to qualify to the World Championship at BlizzCon. But we were just saying, where has WizK Warlock been this whole time? Like, I feel like if they picked up that, Absterge picked up the Paladin, they would have that kind of diversity that they need to really become one of the top contenders in the region. And I mean, it's exciting to see that, you know, they practice something and they're bringing it out here because they know, you know, based on what Healing Stat said as well, that playing Shadow Priest into the Destro Windwalker is not going to be that nice. So WizK is gonna have to perform here on the lock.
Yeah, I mean, how do we think the lock is going to go though, Healing Stat?
I mean, I'm excited for it. This is the thing with Golden Guardians. We've said forever that we just want to see them not only practice the ults, because they do, right? They have, you know, Peekaboo playing as Monk on stream sometimes. They have Jelly Beans on Mage, but then have the confidence to actually lock them in and play them as if, you know, like how Method Black or Wildcard Gaming or Method Orange do, right, with their ults. That's the thing that I think their team has lacked a little bit in the past. They're so good on their mains that you can't really blame them too much for it. But I'm excited to see this Warlock. As Zico said, you know, I think it's going to be a very scary matchup if the Shadow Priest was locked into this. Destro versus Destro, it's still going to be tough. Chun-Li's going to have a lot of lockdown, but with Peekaboo and Sturge backing him up, I have good confidence in Golden Guardians. I'm curious to see how they do.
All right, well, as we get these gates open, I have one question for everyone in chat, and that is WizK's Warlock the move? It's time to see the blind pick on the Grand Arena, Spacestation Gaming versus Golden Guardians.
Yep, I don't know how this one's going to work out for them, to be completely honest with you. This composition, the Warlock, Rogue, Shaman, we haven't seen in quite some time. I think we might actually be getting into another game here shortly, but we can keep talking about this matchup.
Yeah, man, Spacestation Gaming, failure to launch more times than SpaceX now.
They're stuck on the International Space Station, apparently. They can't make it back down to the ground.
Next, right before they get the kill, the signal's going to drop out. I don't know, dude. We're going to be remaking this one more time before we do get into the blind pick on the Grand Arena. Ben, what were you saying, though?
I just think this is going to be, this is a tall order for WizK. I mean, I don't know how much Destruction Warlock he has been playing, but going up against Thugonomics and Chun-Li, I mean, these guys are the masters of playing against Destruction Warlocks, locking them down, pushing the pace. So WizK, he's going to have to find a way to find counter pressure, and I think it really is going to be, you know, up to Peekaboo and Absterge to really try and enable WizK in this matchup. I think the one thing that is nice is Absterge on the Shaman. He brings a nice crowd control with Hex, and there's no Hex dispel. So if he can sneak those in consistently on Gorecki, that's when I think we're really going to see the Golden Guardians develop some momentum in the match.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, you talk about tall orders for WizK. He has constantly been one of the players on this team to step up time and time again, picking up different alts, trying to give this team more flexibility. And let's see if that flexibility, one more time, will get it done for the Golden Guardians.
Yeah, they're gonna have a lot of, you know, kill pressure. Like if Chun trinkets poorly, for example, he could easily just die in a smoke bomb. I think Peekaboo's smoke bomb in general, especially when you're playing against a Paladin, is, you know, just a way to kind of end the game when the team still has a lot of cooldowns left on their healers. So a lot of burst, a lot of lockdown, and let's see if the Golden Guardians can do it here on that Grand Arena, gentlemen.
All right, here it is. Kitty shot on the Thugonomics. Let's see if WizK can get the damage. Nice Hex coming in from Absterge, and he's going to be able to consistently find those Hexes in this matchup. But here we go. It's the Spike Trinkets onto WizK, as if this matchup wasn't going to be difficult enough for him. Now he has to deal with the Spike Trinkets without the, you know, the added luxury of a Blessing of Freedom or a Ride the Wind to really help him out. So I think those consistent spikes are really going to punish WizK in this matchup. We'll see. Golden Guardians trying to strike back a little bit here, getting some damage on the Thugonomics. Gorecki so far has been able to easily heal through it, but the damage it keeps going. I mean, WizK, he's finding the Chaos Bolts. Cheap shot on Gorecki. Thugonomics could actually be in some real trouble here.
Yeah, this is a pretty strong start, honestly, coming in. There's the wall forced out, the smoke bomb as well. Greki's going to push in, use the Avenging Wrath to top off his Warlock, but definitely a promising start. The first spite setup from Spacestation Gaming as well wasn't super scary over onto WizK. They used a couple of cooldowns, but they still have that unending resolve. So for Golden Guardians, promising start. Really happy to see WizK stepping up on this Destruction Warlock. It feels like it's been years since we've seen Destruction Warlocks in the arena after what we just saw in Europe, but they're back, and we have two of the best coming in here. Thugonomics in a little bit of trouble. Now Goreki being kidney shot. They're falling far behind. They have to find something here.
Ooh, I really like Peekaboo kind of dipping in and out of line of sight, avoiding the fears from Thugonomics, finally getting feared away, and here it is, Spites once again. Do Chun-Li and Thugonomics have theirs available? WizK is going to be in a lot of trouble here, forced to use the Unending Resolve. Absurge using a lot to keep him alive there, but there is really good pressure in this match from the Golden Guardians. I am surprised. Thugonomics getting low, another Hex onto Chun-Li. Peekaboo really ripping in here. Goreki definitely has a tall order. Can he keep him alive? Divine Favor, but it doesn't seem to top him off at this point. Going to require more healing than that. Good pressure here for both sides, but I fear for Thugonomics. If Goreki gets hexed, and of course he does have the Divine Shield, I guess Space Station Gaming, they actually have a lot more defensive tools to work with, and that's one of the nice luxuries of the Paladin, also winning on mana. So I don't know, Golden Guardians are going to have to figure out something here quickly.
Yeah, I think for Golden Guardians, I agree with you. They need to find some way of utilizing that Polymorph DR on Goreki, whether it's the double coils going out on Goreki or it's the Spite Trinket, the Spite Trinket's coming out now, or the Hexes, I was going to say, onto Goreki. This is a big Spite push over onto WizK. We see the Oven Shield Totem is down, but they don't have those massive numbers of cooldowns that we talked about. Defensive Blind therefore comes through onto Chun-Li, making sure that WizK is able to stay in the fight. Mana is falling behind though, and the Golden Guardians, this is something they love to do. When they play the RPS, they'll really turtle, they can beat you in deep damping, they can beat you early. But here, I feel like the numbers are against them. If they do play this turtling strategy, they need to get some CC over onto Goreki to help get the pressure to take Thugonomics down before Absurge runs out of mana.
Ooh, big touch of death with the Fort Brew on WizK. Goreki also under fire right now. Absurge responds with his Ascendants to keep WizK alive. Both teams having to exchange a lot of defensive cooldowns. Nice interrupt, snuck in by WizK. Thugonomics could outright just die. Nicely done here by the Golden Guardians. Thugonomics eats a huge Chaos Bolt, and what a statement from the Golden Guardians. WizK coming in on the Destruction Warlock, going toe-to-toe with Thugonomics, and winning game number 1.
Now, I want to start by saying, obviously this is huge for the Golden Guardians, right? This gives them a real shot in this series. But even after winning, Zico, do you think that they stay on this composition? Or do you think they go, okay, we won that one, whew, we need to play something else because that felt like a near impossible matchup to play?
I don't. No, I think they stay with the Rogue Warlock. I mean, if they blind lock Rogue Shadow Priest, they're probably just gonna face Windwalker Lock, and I don't think it's gonna be a matchup that they can win. Okay. But when you have so much burst damage that they have with the Destro Warlock, if they get a kidney shot into a Mortal Coil on the Paladin, they can, take him down. They can smoke bomb Chun-Li, take him down. They can do what they did here, just, have Absurge, Wind Shear, and then get a spell lock by WizK, and then they can secure the kill that way. So it feels like there's a lot more win conditions when you actually kind of have the damage to back up your go.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting thing to see WizK switching to this Warlock and ultimately able to get the win. Once again, WizK stepping up. Let's break down the game, though, just a little bit, Zico. Let's unpack what happened in game number 1, blind pick against Space Station Gaming.
Well, I think Goreki moved in because he wanted to start, playing a little bit aggressive, get the CC chains here onto Absurge, and Absurge was kind of harassing him that entire time. And Goreki went for a heal, and he just got immediately spell locked by WizK. WizK had his pet on him, and at the same time, they were able to find the Chaos Bolts that they needed. There was no Hand of Sacrifice as well to kind of just pause the damage completely. Instead, they traded out the Blessing of Protection, but it wasn't enough because, WizK does damage through it. So, Golden Guardians, bit of a surprise kill, I would say, but the game in general didn't look too bad. Only on mana, really, okay. I would say, was a big problem for them.
You know what you have to say coming into this time? I talked to Pika on Thursday, and he was like, I think it's been a pretty long time since we've made it into a top 6. Now, all of a sudden, they're in a top 4. And you know what we saw? We saw a Paladin healer from them already. And now we're seeing them actually bring WizK on the Warlock. Healing said, do you think that these are the signs of multi-classing that we've needed to see from this roster to have more consistent results in the current meta?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super happy to see them doing so well on the Destro. I mean, as Zico was alluding to, it's one game and it wasn't the most clean, but the fact that they can literally lock in WizK into Thugonomics, who I would think most people, him and Chanimals, are the two Warlocks that have been playing AWC at the highest level in North America. It's like insane. So they need to be able to do that. They already did the Paladin so well yesterday as well. Maybe even bringing both of them out. Honestly, maybe I'm getting greedy, but I think Paladin Warlock would probably be the best blind pick, because I could see Shaman Warlock getting crushed by some cleaves potentially. I'm a bit scared for this next game if they do blind lock that. But I mean, great signs for Golden Guardians. We already said it in Europe. It's only the Cup season. If they can really clean these and polish these classes, they could be great contenders for even #1, taking down Cloud9 come circuit.
I mean, hey, the last series that we actually got to see, the grand final in the EU, and now this series already, I mean, it just really has been a light in my life. Absolutely beaming right now, getting to see all of these series. It's been truly fantastic to see. The Golden Guardians start off nice and hot. They're able to grab that win. Now Spacestation is just saying, you know what? Let's keep on going. Let's go again. Tolvaran Arena. Venruki, how do you feel about seeing this one run back?
Well, I mean, with Gorecki on the Mistweaver Monk, a lot of the times on that Mistweaver Monk, you just want to be the person who's playing max range, kind of relying on your overall throughput. I mean, Mistweaver Monks, I would say, have some of the best healing in the game, and I think if Gorecki is just sitting far away, trying to just keep Thugonomics alive, we could see that mana lead Spacestation Gaming had on the Grand Arena develop itself even more, because I think it's going to be a lot easier for Gorecki on the Mistweaver Monk to get away, sneak behind the pillar, drink to full. Meanwhile, for Golden Guardians, I think Absurd is really going to have his hands full, having to keep his team alive through the damage of the Windwalker Monk, the Destruction Warlock, and also just, maintaining his mana for a long period of time. So I think that's kind of the thought process here for Spacestation Gaming, but we'll definitely have to see.
We will see very shortly as well. We're going to wait to see everybody queue on up and get rolling in this series. Keep in mind, if the Golden Guardians do manage to win here on Tolvaran, they will find themselves on match point. That best of 7 that we saw in the previous series was because it was the grand final for EU, and we're already on our way to find out who the grand final for NA is going to be. This is the first elimination series that we will see. We're going to have our top 3 after this one is over. Spacestation Gaming, do you think that there could be a little bit of ego? I feel like it could hurt your ego a little bit if you're the Destruction Warlock and all of a sudden you lose to WizK. Do you think that, Zico, that could be a factor in this one? Do you think that Thug might actually be thrown off at the fact that WizK is just brazenly locking in for that Destro versus Destro meatball sling?
No, I don't think it's Thug. To quote my man Venruki, he's been competing for decades at this point.
Yeah.
And I think he's got the experience under his belt to not let something like that get to him. The interesting thing here is that Gorecki is on a Mistweaver. I actually feel like Gorecki could go down on that Mistweaver if they can blind him, force out his trinket, and then maybe swap to him later, maybe get a smoke bomb or a big Dark Soul Chaos Bolt. They could just close out the game. The one thing about the Shaman that's kind of nice is that in addition to the fact that you can ground, Thug's Chaos Bolts and, help your team interrupt Thug and slow him down, which would, help WizK. In addition to that, you can also drop a grounding when WizK wants to burst and kind of use that as like a immunity to spell lock from Thug. So the Shaman does add a little bit of interesting dynamic there.
All right, well, Golden Guardians going to be leading by 1 against Spacestation Gaming. It's time for game number 2.
All right, gates open up. Peekaboo's going to be moving forward again. Let's see how much pressure he can really get. Cheap shot on Chun-Li, Garrote on Thugonomics. Very standard opener here. Going to be getting that damage rolling. But the question for me is, are they going to be able to find any crowd control on Gorecki, or are they just going to try to rely on pure, sheer aggression? I think at some point Peekaboo is going to go for the blind sap. Gorecki likely will just trinket it, and then at that point, I mean, how do you really get crowd control on Gorecki? Peekaboo actually taking a huge hit of damage early on, forced to trade his trinket and retreat to play a little bit safer in the game.
Yeah, so one of the big things, of course, to Gorecki playing this Mistweaver, the Paladin We've seen people defeating Golden Guardians with Holy Paladin healers. It just seems pretty good into the Shadow Priest. You can play the Shadow Aura, but it didn't feel so good into the Destro Warlock. The CS especially, definitely the reason they literally lost the game. So with Mistweaver, healing throughput's going to be a lot better, and that's going to really put the test to Absterge's healing throughput on that Shaman, because this is very close to a mirror outside of those healers in the melees. So it's very similar compositions types. We can see the Ascendants coming through, the Vendetta coming through right now from Peekaboo, trying to kind of peel on Chun-Li. But the way that this game's playing, he's not getting the same levels of pressure on Thugonomics that he was passively getting with the Holy Paladin healer. And that concerns me for Golden Guardians, because a lot of what they were doing well in the last game came off of, having high pressure, then setting up with a CS or a random coil or something like that to force cooldowns.
Yeah, and without that, I mean, like I said in the pre-match, the Mistweaver Monk is just so powerful. It's such a strong healer. Gorecki actually does get interrupted. Let's see if they can capitalize on that at all. What are they going to be able to get done? Peekaboo still with... Actually, he has no blind. He traded it for Gorecki's Trinket. And, I mean, it's very standard for Gorecki to make that play, but they're actually just going for Peekaboo. He might just outright get deleted. He's getting down to 10% health. Abster's forced to Trinket, getting the Vitality Conduit, and that is a really, really scary setup. Paralyze on Peekaboo, paralyze on Absterge. Double leg sweep on both Absterge and Peekaboo. And I mean, what do you do? Peekaboo, if he doesn't have a trinket or Absterge doesn't have a trinket, it's just game over. Thugonomics going to be taking a few hits here, as WizK does manage to find some big Chaos Bolts. If we look at mana, Gorecki, of course, does have a little bit of a lead. I'm curious to see if we do see Gorecki actually run away and try to go for a drink. Peekaboo has the Vanish, so he could always threaten the Vanish sap if Gorecki leaves himself out of combat for too long. So definitely something Gorecki is going to have to think about as we move forward.
Yeah, potentially. His mana's looking pretty good right now. The thing is with this Resto Shamans, like, the comps Resto Shamans are normally best in are the ones where they have a lot of self-sustain, and Warlocks can have that too. But I don't know if this is... When I see this composition, it just doesn't seem like the sort of comp that will keep itself alive without a lot of input from its healer. That's why Mistweavers and Paladins and stuff are great. Absterge is really struggling in this game so far. Already down to 50% mana at 3-minute mark. A lot of cooldowns being traded out as well. His entire team rotting. Caught up in yet another full fear here. And I mean, the one-shots on Peekaboo are quite something, but they might not even need that to win this game. Golden Guardians looking great here on Tolvaron Arena. Sorry, Spacestation looking great. Golden Guardians looking for swaps over onto Chun-Li. They are finding some stuff here. They're getting a bit of damage, but I mean, I don't need to tell you about this, Ben. You can tell me just how tanky those Windwalkers are when they get the full burst.
Oh, yes, they are incredibly tanky, especially when you go into a stun. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous at that point. And Chun-Li not afraid to stack maximum versatility. Peekaboo getting a little bit low there. Kidney shot on Thugonomics. WizK throwing in a couple bolts. Actually, an interrupt on Gorecki as well. This might be an opportunity here for Golden Guardians. Can they get anything done? Peekaboo with the big Drestagath. Life Cocoon shuts that down and says, hey, no way. And still, Gorecki with his mana lead, looking good. 1 minute away from dampening at this point of the game. But is Absterge going to be able to get done? Looking for heals over onto WizK. Manages to find it with the Vitality Conduit, trading that out. 1 Chaos Bolt onto Thugonomics, 2 as well. And I mean, if Thugonomics is playing Conflict and Strife, I almost wonder if they should not even try to burst during the kidney shot. It seems like wasted damage at that point. Better off just trying to get the damage without the stun. Use kidney shot as kind of just like an interrupt, because, I mean, when Thugonomics is getting kidney shot and the Chaos Bolt lands, it doesn't seem to move his health at all.
Yeah, it's looking rough. I think the thing is, for Golden Guardians, this is the worst map as well. Like, they would love to have Peekaboo stepping over onto Gorecki, getting kidneys on him, and then they have like this kind of pronged attack where Peekaboo's getting solo pressure on the Mistweaver, and then WizK's throwing bolts out on Thugonomics. I think that's the kind of ideal situation for them, but it's difficult for Peekaboo to have good uptime on a Mistweaver with Windwalker peels, and of course, just the size of the map. It's difficult to get there, so we'll have to consider that going into Game 2. Maybe even the Shadow Priest could be pretty nice if they are forced to lock in this Mistweaver, and it could go back and forth like that. But right now, Peekaboo's got to make something happen in this game. With Dampening's just starting off, Thugonomics hasn't really taken too much damage. Mana's starting to even up a little bit, though. Gorecki's starting to feel a little bit of pressure, although I'm not exactly sure where his mana's going. Big swap over onto Peekaboo here as Chun-Li looks to get the kill for his team.
Yeah, Peekaboo forced to trade out his trinket, and that is scary for him now, because Chun-Li didn't use his Drestagath. The next stun on Peekaboo could absolutely be devastating. Absterge, no trinket. All they need is one good setup. I mean, if they get a paralyzed leg sweep on Peekaboo with Drestagath and any damage from Thugonomics, and crowd control and Absurge, the game could outright just be over. Space Station Gaming doing a lot of burst now over on the WizK as well. Absurge with his Ascendants will keep him alive. Smoke Bomb now as Thugonomics gets bursted down. Gorecki caught into a fear. Good plays from both teams, but I really have my eye on Peekaboo. I think he's the one that's in the most trouble in the near future.
Yeah, he is. So we saw, I think there was a Hex going out onto Gorecki, but it broke immediately, so unfortunate. Maybe I missaw that one. But I was gonna say one thing for WizK. He's been doing such a good job of actually getting out bolts and key fears on Gorecki. I'm super surprised, because you'd think the lockdown from the Windwalker plus the Destro of this caliber would be making it way harder for him, but that's the reason Gorecki's actually starting to struggle on mana. Golden Guardians, I would be beyond amazed if they managed to turn this into a win, because they have looked like they've been struggling to generate pressure this entire game, but they're actually starting to find a little bit of an advantage here in terms of mana. I mean, Absterge on the Shaman, sure, his mana's low, but I feel like Shamans, with the way their mastery works and everything, it's going to still take a little bit of dampening to actually finish the game. Meanwhile, Mistweavers, once they're tapped on mana, it's really difficult for them, and that's another full Hex connected there by Absterge. Beautiful plays coming in from him. He recognizes when his team needs to get aggressive, needs to create these opportunities for themselves. Peekaboo using the tank trinket, WizK taking a little bit of damage. They just need to find that one opportunity with the swap. Maybe they can pull out a win. It'd be basically pulling out something out the hat at this point.
Oh, that was so nice too. They tried to do the setup on Peekaboo, the game-winning setup, but WizK shut it down with a beautiful Shadow Fury. Very nicely done, but now WizK actually in a little bit of trouble. He gets interrupted by Thugonomics. Absurge, of course, trying to deny with the Earthen Wall Totem. That's going to make them tanky enough to survive. About 15% dampening right now. And WizK has his Dark Soul rolling. He's going to be looking for Chaos Bolt. Potentially finds one. Thugonomics actually reflects it. WizK going to be taking, a big chunk of damage from his own Chaos Bolt. Blind onto Chun-Li. Another Chaos Bolt on Thugonomics. Gorecki responds with the Life Cocoon. That will be more than enough to keep him alive right now. Vendetta is rolling. They might just shred through it, and they do. They manage to break through Life Cocoon, but too little too late. Thugonomics manages to get topped off. Gorecki backing him up. But still, this pressure from the Golden Guardians, like you said, it's starting to add up, and the mana lead we saw from Gorecki, it's not nearly as high anymore. Peekaboo getting swapped to with a Paralyze on Absurge. A little bit of a setup here from Space Station Gaming, but it looks like Golden Guardians are able to hold on.
Yeah, we see another Vitality Conduit coming through. Chun-Li is actually taking a fair bit of damage from those conduits as well, so they got to be a bit careful with that one. WizK taking damage here. They do still have that Spirit Link available. Earthen Wall Totem comes down. Great grounding totems have been coming through from Absterge. He preemptively grounded on one of the previous stuns. How come WizK didn't have to use some of those major cooldowns? We've got the Unending Resolve available. Dark Soul is coming up for Thugonomics though, so I'm a little bit scared here for the Golden Guardians. They're trying to deny the drink of Gorecki. You can see Absterge crossing the map, trying to make sure that this Mistweaver isn't able to drink. I think a full drink for Gorecki would be GG in favor of Space Station Gaming, but so far it's not so clear. WizK taking a lot of damage though. They need to get the Spirit Link off. They barely are able to. Nice plays from Absterge to keep his team in the fight.
Yeah, but that was Spirit Link. That was Ascendant's Touch of Death rolling up here for Chun-Li. I actually fear for WizK quite a bit. He's going to have to make sure he gets a high-value Unending Resolve. Speaking of Unending Resolve, Thugonomics is just faded. Not many defensive cooldowns left. Gorecki with his Fortifying Brew and Life Cocoon keeps his team alive. And now Space Station Gaming, they're looking to get the counter pressure. WizK a little bit low here. Chun-Li needs to connect if he can. He's kind of just attacking Peekaboo as well, trying to develop multiple pressure points. Paralyze on Absterge. What are they trying to set up? Touch of Death now on WizK. This is really scary. Peekaboo forced to trinket out of the leg sweep of Gorecki. They're trying to stop his peels. He trades his trinket because he just needs to slow down Thugonomics. WizK was in some trouble. He's forced to use his Unending Resolve on that Touch of Death. But now, I mean, in terms of defense, both of these Warlocks, they basically have nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, that I thought was going to be a really, really big pressure point for Space Station Gaming, but they just get that Unending Resolve. Thugonomics has to trade his back, and suddenly Gorecki's actually completely out of mana. And this is what I was saying. The Shaman can kind of keep going because of the way the mastery works, but they need to just survive this little bit longer here. The Earthen Wall Totem isn't available for a bit. That Vitality Conduit comes in clutch for Absterge and the Golden Guardians. Now the Life Cocoon traded out. That's the last line of defense here, but WizK will fall, and the Golden Guardians will end up losing this one. A tied series, but again, closer than I was expecting, given I really think the Shaman should be disadvantaged in this one.
I feel like it does look really close after seeing it a second time as well. I'll be completely honest, after seeing it the first time, even with the Golden Guardians winning, I felt like it was a situation where I was like, maybe they should play something else. But Zico, after seeing this second game, how do you actually feel about this composition that the Golden Guardians have been bringing? Do you think that Space Station Gaming is going to consistently be able to find wins like they just found?
No, I think a lot of it is because of map. Like, you can't actually punish Goreki for trinketing. If he trinkets blind, well, you can't actually get back onto him and get a big setup. And the reason why is because Goreki is always going to be super far away, and if you do a kidney shot setup, you're gonna need to get some bleeds on Goreki and then Shadow Step Kidney him when he's already like 80%. If you Shadow Step Kidney him, he doesn't have, a rupture and a garrote and everything like that, and you have to apply it in the stun, you're not gonna have enough damage to 100 to 0 him. So even if you have, a big juicy bolt or two. So I think the map just makes it super, super hard for them to do that, because Goreki is always staying far back, threatening to get drinks, and he can just basically do whatever he wants. So I expect us to go to a small map, and I expect us to see the same comp from Golden Guardians if we see that Windwalker Warlock come out from Space Station.
Then, do you think we're in a situation here where it is just going to be the map that is the main back and forth, and everybody kind of just keeping these comps locked in for the remainder of the series?
I actually see a world where we see RPS. If we go to a small map, I actually think if we see the Mistweaver Monk from Goreki, I don't think the Golden Guardians are going to be afraid to play the Shadow Priest Rogue. Yeah, I mean, they could potentially try to play that and take advantage of the fact that he is on a Mistweaver Monk. I mean, we saw what they were able to do when they played against Sidu. Sidu kind of struggled on that Mistweaver Monk, and I think it could be a similar story for Goreki. And I mean, you have to think about the blind pick and what we saw from both these teams. For Space Station Gaming, they went into the first game blind. They were expecting the RPS, and there was a reason why Goreki was on a Paladin and not a Mistweaver Monk. So if they decide, hey, you know what, we're going to try the Mistweaver Monk once again, I think it's perfectly reasonable to assume that Golden Guardians might just try the RPS.
Well, Healing Set, we all know you love your Shadow Priests. How would you actually feel about that decision? How do you think that matchup would actually go for them?
I would love it. I was starting to think that the light that has kind of like engulfed you is what has scared away the shadows of these tournaments, because WizK just not willing to lock in the Shadow Priest. But I mean, I completely agree with Ben. I think forcing the Mistweaver from Goreki actually sets up Shadow Priest pretty well. I mean, it's still going to be rough, right? But it's the move. It's Golden Guardians. They love to play these comps, like they're the comps that they're the best at. The Shadow Priest, RPS, short. May or may not be an advantage matchup. You can argue that either way, but they're going to have great opportunities against that Mistweaver. The other thing I was kind of toying with in my head, and I can't wait to get completely shut down by everyone, but WizK actually, I remember a couple of years back, he played an entire tournament as Feral, right?
Yeah,
with Jellybeans.
They
played the jungle.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I mean, we talked about it into Mistweaver. I mean, it would come down to Sturgy as well, like on the Shaman. Maybe he could play something else, but why not? You know,
do you think with picking up the Warlock and all of the alts that we've seen WizK play, that he was like, I should keep the Feral up to date?
Well, you know what I was gonna say is it's kind of weird to me. I feel like even I find myself doing this sometimes, but when you think of WizK, you just think of Shadow Priest. But I mean, he's proven over the years.
Yeah.
He's played what Feral. Yeah. He's played Death
Okay.
Knight. We've seen him on Warlock, on Shadow Priest. Maybe some other things as well. But I mean, this guy has proven that. I think didn't he actually play Discipline Priest? I swear.
Yeah, Upsurge was out for one of the community tournaments.
Didn't they win a game or a series?
Maybe. I remember. I mean, I think it's not really a hot take to say that WizK is by far the best multi-classer on this roster, right? Like, the guy just seems to play everything at such a high level.
Wow. What about Jelly Ellie? What about the Jelly Mage?
Jelly Ellie, dude.
True.
The Jelly Ellie.
But I mean, this
Jelly
I would love it, because they already play DH Hunter, right? It's like, how do you use Jelly? Jelly is like insane on the Hunter. They don't normally have Feral, so I mean, maybe not for this cup, but it could be something going forward.
I actually I want to see Jelly Beans in multi-class more, to be honest with you. I really believe that Jelly Beans is like one of the best PvPers. I think he's just one of the best PvPers, period. And I think like his knowledge of the game, his mechanical skill, like he's just really, really intelligent. It's super fun to watch him play, but I think he could easily pick up other classes and really excel at them.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be great for the roster as a whole, right? Jelly, though, when you do see him on his Hunter, frequently gets praised for being one of the best to ever do it. Not very often that we actually do see this roster utilize him, especially in a meta like this. Question is, could we maybe see something get put together here for the Golden Guardians? Could we see it be broken out? Hook Point is going to be the map, and Zico, you already talked about how important you think the maps are going to be in this series.
Yeah, I mean, smaller maps are definitely going to favor our boys in the Golden Guardians. They want to have that small map where, especially if they go up against the Mistweaver, where they can kind of abuse the Mistweaver, get the, blind on him, try to swap to him later, maybe kidney him, force his trinket, blind him, and try to kill somebody else. It just opens up the game way more when you can actually hit the healer and one of the DPS compared to when you're just hitting one of the DPS or just hitting both of the DPS and the healer is just kind of free healing in the back.
All right, now we just wait to see what Golden Guardians are going to lock in. Before we got into the series, I think a lot of us didn't think we'd really truthfully be asking that question throughout this series. I think a lot of us felt like they would fall back on what we've seen them play so many times, but all of a sudden, they just open up with a curveball. And now, if they are able to win this next one, they will find themselves on match point. But Space Station can say the same. Then, is there anything in particular that you want to see?
Pally RPS?
Yeah, Pally RPS could be an option too. I think they could really pressure Gorecki, make it difficult for him to actually get away. I mean, their all-ins are absolutely stellar. I think Golden Guardians are one of those teams where when they can play a composition and they can gear towards it, they can play these really, really, aggressive rushdown strategies, and they do it better than almost anyone else. But they're going to be deciding to lock in the Destruction Warlock once again. I mean, really taking their time, so maybe bringing in the Shadow Priest is something that they thought about, but I think just in general, the small map with the RLS is going to be significantly better than Tolvaron. It's just going to be a lot easier for them to actually, push in when they have pressure, get wind shears, potentially even hexes onto Gorecki to really shut him down and make him fall behind. And I think it's just going to be a lot better for the composition Golden Guardian has on Hook Point.
Yeah, and I think this is going to show how much this was the composition that they prepared to try to get deeper in this tournament, right? It seems like they are pretty set on this strategy. We'll have to see how it does actually play out. Space Station Gaming has shown that they are vulnerable on the larger map. They were able to utilize that space pretty well, but now we're in close quarters, and the question is, who is going to win game number 3, Hook Point, Space Station Gaming versus the Golden Guardians?
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I think this is exactly what we were talking about a little in the last game, that it was closer than we thought. Golden Guardians are very close to ooming Gorecki, which would be a big deal on the Mistweaver. I just think on this smaller map, they need to be making more swaps to him. There was a couple of times where they went for these Desperation Peel Goes on Chun-Li. I don't think they even forced a touch of karma in the game, did they?
Well, look at it. He's going to be within range of wind shear. Gorecki's always going to be in range of Shadow Step Kidney. There's always going to be immense pressure on him, and that's kind of why I like seeing the Rogue Lock, because if you actually catch somebody, it's not the way the RPS functions where you have to swap 100 times and keep the pressure and rotate it, and then you get that big kill. Instead, it's just you lock somebody down. If Whiskey can free cast the Chaos Bolt, there's a good chance he goes down.
All right, here we go. Let's see if the Golden Guardians can do it or if Space Station Gaming can hold on. This is the composition they're known for, the Windwalker Warlock. Whiskey kind of making a statement here, logging on the Destruction Warlock, going toe-to-toe. So far, this has been a very close series. This game really could go either way. We're looking to see Golden Guardians get some big pressure here on Gorecki, really kind of force his hands by pressuring him with stuns and interrupts. See if they can develop momentum on Thugonomics that way.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice start too. They get the triple stun from the capacitor out of the infernal stun. Unfortunately for Peekaboo, it means that his kidney shots aren't going to be so useful for a little bit, so he needs to make sure he holds on to DR. They actually get some massive Chaos Bolts over onto Chun-Li, but that means that there's some reverse damage over onto WizK. We can see the Touch of Karma was exchanged there. Now Trinket Life Cocoon coming out over onto Chun-Li. So contrary to what I was saying earlier, maybe on this smaller map, even Chun-Li is a viable target. They forced a lot of stuff out of him there. WizK in the meantime held his cool, didn't use the Unending Resolve to the onslaught from the Space Station Gaming.
Yeah, it's just so important to not panic, not overreact. Absurge pushes in, he gets caught into a paralyze. Spelllock as well, so a bit of an overlap there for Space Station Gaming, not getting full utilization of that interrupt. Thugonomics still just going to be pressured down as we see Peekaboo and Chun-Li kind of take their respective positions on the enemy Warlock. Chun-Li forced to portal away, and WizK, I mean, he pressuring Chun-Li in a way where he's forced to run away. Definitely nice plays coming in from him. Peekaboo putting a kitty shot on Chun-Li. He trinkets out, And look at this. I mean, right now, Space Station Gaming, all 3 members, no Gladiator's Medallion, a full Hex on Gorecki. Thugonomics is actually in a lot of trouble here. He gets bursted down. I believe that was the Hellstone, potentially Battle Masters as well. So Thugonomics trading out his own defense in order to survive. But that was an extremely good burst setup there by the Golden Guardians.
Yeah, and I mean, it's worked out really well for them. Space Station Gaming, I think Thugonomics, he got kidneyed, and they're actually going to overlap the kidney and the coil, but he trinketed straight into the coil, so that worked out super well for the Golden Guardians, and it kind of led to this period where they haven't really had any trouble. It's been WizK free casting, he's had damage on Chun-Li forcing him back, he's had damage on Thugonomics, and they really are making good use of this map. Absolurge feels a lot more confident to go for those hexes. Looks like he's trying to land one right now, sneak it over onto Gorecki, because every single time one of those 8-second crowd control lands, you know, they could go for a Vanished Sap off of it, they can go for a kidney off of it. And there's so many opportunities this set up, so Gorecki needs to be super, super careful in this game. Peekaboo, though, I think he recognizes they haven't forced too much in a little bit. Going to hop over to Gorecki, gets out the Fortifying Brew, but they need to find a way of kind of continuing this pressure on Gorecki, because if he's just free healing, we saw how that went in Game 2.
I mean, it's just really difficult to push through the sheer healing that the Mistweaver Monk has available. Interrupt onto Gorecki, nicely done by WizK. This is where they could start getting some damage. Full blind on Gorecki. Is he going to trink it out? He's forced to. Piku with the Vanish Garrote. Now looking like he wants to get a stun, but he actually gets caught into a leg sweep of his own. And now WizK has kind of been left alone. Peekaboo might have to help him. They're going all in. Chun-Li trades the Touch of Karma, the Touch of Death. He's using a lot of offense here to try to take WizK down, but with Absolurge's positioning right now, using Ascendance, WizK is going to be more than fine. And once again, Chun-Li is forced to retreat. He's got no Trinket for another 10 seconds, no Touch of Karma. I could see Golden Guardians maybe trying to punish him if he continues to play in the open for too long.
Yeah, I like that play from Chun-Li, though. It was the smoke bomb coming in from Peekaboo. He just poured it back. I didn't see which ringer piece it was, whether it was his or Gorecki's, but either way, it was just great peels coming through. He needs to be careful right now, though. Does have access to diffuse magic, so he can deny this Chaos Ball damage, but you can really see the Golden Guardians finding their element here on the RLS in this game. They have pressure coming in onto Gorecki. Peekaboo's able to go for those flashy plays with the step, the kidney, the kick. And they're also getting some off pressure onto Chun-Li, who still doesn't have access to that Touch of Karma for a little bit. They need to be careful, though. WizK, though, this is a big push coming through. We do see the Unending Resolve is down for him, and Absolurge starting to fall behind on mana. Do they have damage onto Gorecki here? They're committing the kidney shots over onto him instead of Thugonomics, but it doesn't seem like they have the damage to push through just yet.
Definitely not. Thugonomics interrupted, trying to get out of line of sight. WizK, he's got the Dark Soul up. Nice ring apiece there by Gorecki and Chun-Li. WizK basically just bouncing around during his Dark Soul. Potentially might find one bolt, but that was really good denial. I mean, this is something we've seen from Chun-Li and Gorecki in the past. Definitely styling on their opponents sometimes with that double ring apiece. But a big leg sweep coming in. Gorecki actually caught into a kidney shot. Does Peekaboo have any damage? Doesn't look like they do just yet. Peekaboo just trying to get his bleeds up on as many targets as possible, and actually just soloing down Gorecki right now. WizK unfortunately cannot get there for any additional damage, but somehow, some way, Peekaboo is literally forcing big cooldowns. Peekaboo almost gets taken down, though. He's in a lot of trouble. The Vanish Cheap Shot comes into Chun-Li, and we've seen this in the past. I mean, Peekaboo gears his character so aggressive in these matchups that he's really susceptible to big Dressagath trinkets from Windwalker monks. We almost saw him fall down right now, and he has to be very careful of those situations.
Yeah, Dressagath in return, though. He almost kills Gorecki, forces out the life kick. Now he's going to force out the trinket with that blind, and this has been a game on a knife's edge for both sides. Such great play coming through. They get the kidney on Chun-Li. He's in so much trouble. Any interrupt on Gorecki could finish it here in favor of the Golden Guardians. They get a full hex. Where does that hex come from? They just need to connect here. Peekaboo looking for the re-stealth. He gets it with the sap. There's a Fist of Fury, desperately trying to survive. Do they have any more damage? It doesn't look like it. The Golden Guardians, they were so close to taking this game in that situation, but narrowly Space Station Gaming are going to escape with their lives.
That was such a beautiful play, both offensively from the Golden Guardians, but also Chun-Li defensively played that beautifully, getting away from Peekaboo, getting the stun on the Garrote immediately, keeping himself alive, buying Gorecki the second he needed to actually connect that Vitality conduit. Just really high-level plays from both these teams. 6 minutes have elapsed, 9% dampening, and things are really going to start, heating up for both these teams. Upsurge, his mana isn't looking great. Chun-Li actually eats a huge Chaos Bolt. With no Karma, no Trinket to fuse, Chun-Li is still super susceptible. We'll have to see if Peekaboo tries to punish him or if he's just going to continue this push onto Gorecki. Chun-Li says, you need to get off my healer, and tries to force him away by coming back and playing a little bit of defense.
Yeah, Guardian Chun-Li coming in there, but he's going to get kidneyed for his troubles. These plays coming in from Golden Guardians are exactly what we wanted to see, but Peekaboo needs to be careful. As you said, he gears very aggressively, relying on those quick reactions to the Drestageths. Another one comes through there, almost taking him out, but the backup from his healer with that Ascendance is going to answer some of this. Now we see the Touch of Death rolling onto WizK. He does have the Unending Resolve available should he choose to use it. Looks like he's going to try hold for now. The Life Cocoon is still down for Gorecki off of that swap from Peekaboo. I'd love to see him just kind of throw more kidneys their way. It seems like every single time they can force that Life Cocoon over onto Gorecki, that's where all their pressure comes. Gorecki needs to recover, then he can get caught up in hexes, and they have an easy way to win the game. Blind comes through, Trinket forced out, no Life Cocoon, and for a few more seconds, and no Touch of Death either. They've got a few more opportunities to win this one as Dampening starts to play out.
Getting shot on Chun-Li, but there's just no damage. Gorecki gets the Paralyze on Peekaboo. WizK still out of line of sight. And I mean, I've said this before. I feel like Chun-Li is one of the best defensive Windwalker monks. If he knows he's a target, it is extremely difficult to take this monk down. But we'll see. I mean, Golden Guardians are trying to continue the push. Gorecki with no Trinket. He's actually susceptible to a swap here. If they can get the pressure rolling, Thugonomics looking for a Chaos Bolt. Nice Smoke Bomb by Peekaboo. Denies that damage coming in from Thugonomics. It would have been a massive Chaos Bolt incoming from him, as he does have that Dark Soul up. 20% dampening makes it so difficult to heal through that kind of pressure. Double Ring of Peace once again onto WizK, kind of bouncing him around. Not really accomplishing too much, honestly, just mostly for style points there, but it will deny WizK getting any peels out. Chun-Li still getting pressured down, and it seems like for WizK, he's kind of just trying to develop pressure wherever he can. If he can't get a lot of sight of Thugonomics or Gorecki, he's just going to try to bully Chun-Li by fearing him, by Chaos Bolting him. And sometimes as a Destruction Warlock, that's really your only option.
Yeah, I feel like these double ring of pieces, I mean, it looks cool, maybe some sort of RP with space stations and denying gravity or something, but it's 2 45-second cooldowns that you're committing, and then if a kidney shot goes out into Gorecki, Chun-Li would love to just ring of piecing that, I think. So we've seen it a couple of times. First time looked better, this time maybe not so high value, but they are just going to rotate them back up. I think the real story here for Golden Guardians is how good they've been playing defensively this game. Like that Smoke Bomb on the Chaos Bolt was so impressive, and they followed up with a perfect wind shear into a perfect spell lock. They've been playing so well, and you can start to see the mana paying off. Absolurge's mana is way better this game than it was on the Tolvaron game, and Gorecki's the one starting to fall behind. And Peekaboo, if he sees people at about 60-70% health, he's going to have no hesitation getting those step kidney drests. It's a scary situation for Spacestation Gaming. They need to find their way back into this game.
They definitely do. Gorecki now into a kidney shot. Peekaboo continuing the push. The Drestagath Trinket lands. And Gorecki, I mean, I fear for him at this point. Upsurge has been doing a great job maintaining his mana. We kind of talked about how one of the main win conditions for Spacestation Gaming is Upsurge going but I don't know if he's changed up his gear or what, but he is absolutely holding on to that mana. And if he has enough mana left in the tank, at 40-50% dampening, that's when those purges really start adding up. Chun-Li going to Upsurge as WizK does use his Unending Resolve. So for Spacestation Gaming, that is a massive victory for them. They managed to get that major defensive cooldown, but Chun-Li, he's got to be very scared here. No Karma, no Trinket. Big opportunities for Golden Guardians to try to punish this Windwalker.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he's in trouble. We already saw Chun-Li. I mean, this guy is, as far as Windwalkers go, the hardest to kill, I would say, but he lived on 1% earlier, definitely playing with those lives. Gorecki's low on mana now. He's being very careful with that Life Cocoon. He doesn't want to be using that too freely, because as soon as he does, he knows Chun-Li or himself are very viable targets in this matchup. Even Thugonomics at 35% dampening, they could just start attacking him. I'm pretty sure get one good hex over onto Gorecki, they could easily take the game on the Warlock. This is big damage coming from Thugonomics. They need to respect the Dark Soul. Too many games have been won from Dark Souls. Nice step kick comes from Peekaboo though. Denies that for now. Do they have a kidney to follow it up? They might need it. Upsurge instead trinkets out. He knows that this is a tough situation for his team. If they survive these cooldowns, they forced a lot. Life Cocoon's down for 35 seconds. They have an opportunity to go 2-1 up in the series.
Here we go. Let's see what they can get done. Almost 40% dampening at this point. WizK gets caught into a spell lock. Chun-Li just pushing through. Thugonomics looking for a big bolt, but Absurge backs him up with a nice wind shear. Does he have the grounding totem? He does. Grounding totems, and I mean, that's what Zico was talking about. The beautiful grounding totems, the wind shears, make it difficult for Thugonomics to get out his damage. But the problem is the Shaman just doesn't have that great of healing. You can see it right now. Everyone is rotting down. There's no Ascendance. He does have the Spear Link if he needs to, that final safety net. But, I mean, look at this. Golden Guardians, they've held on for such a long time. Gurecki, his mana is not doing well. Peekaboo has been able to create a ton of pressure. WizK also. And now, I mean, Space Station Gaming, I don't know how much longer they have in this match.
Yeah, Absurge, I swear, like, I love playing with this guy as well because he's so calm, so mellow, but then sometimes he'll just pull off these miracles where he keeps his team up till 60% dampening, and you're like, well, there's no way they win this game, but suddenly with 60% dampening, anyone can win the game. So he's doing another one of those games here. It feels like he still has about 20% mana, so that little healing that he's been achieving has been just about doing enough for his team. Peekaboo needs to be careful here. Uses the trinket. Wouldn't want him to get drested right now. We saw that happen a couple of times on Saturday. He needs to be super, super careful in this situation. But Gurecki is the one under pressure. No life cocoon available. The entire team rotting. Maybe they should just go after Thugonomics at this point. Like I said, it's 50% dampening. Shut down the Destro. He's not going to be healing himself much. Gurecki's going to struggle. They need to be very, very careful. And here, that's what they're going for. The Reflect on the Chaos Bolt. Beautiful plays from Thugonomics, but it's still a smoke bomb. It's still scary as they force out the unending resolve.
That's a beautiful time to get it at this point. I mean, Thugonomics, he might not recover. Gurecki, he doesn't have the mana. Absurge, if he can throw Purges, but I don't know if he can afford to. He does have the Spirit Link Totem. That's going to be so important for the defense of Golden Guardians at this point. Thugonomics in a lot of trouble. WizK also. Peekaboo with not a single defensive cooldown left. Anyone could fall. WizK lands a Chaos Bolt. Thugonomics gets interrupted, but he's looking for a Chaos Bolt of his own. Now that WizK is in a stun, Chun-Li is going to be able to get out a ton of pressure, actually trading out his karma. Nobody has any defensives. The only thing we see is Absurge with his Spirit Link Totem. If he can land that, I could see Golden Guardians winning this game. Are they going to be able to do it? Going up 2-1 against Space Station Gaming would be absolutely amazing for their roster. WizK, can he pull off the miracle here, Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, this game has been truly brilliant, and this is a huge swap to Chun-Li. The kidney shot comes through. He narrowly survives. How is he still alive? Both monks portal back with those vitality conduits. This is a big Chaos Bolt. Reflect comes through, but it's grounded by Absurge. So frustrating for Thugonomics. This is an elimination series, and you can tell the teams are playing it out. The kick from Peekaboo. The Infernals come crashing down, and Thugonomics, surely he's going to go down here. Golden Guardian somehow, some way, they take the series to match point.
Dude, I have to just call out the end. I mean, Peekaboo literally going in looking like a ninja the last moments of that game. He gets a cheap shot on Thug, Garrote on Chun-Li, kick on Gurecki, literally interacting with all three players within a matter of seconds. It's just so nice to see.
Dude, what is this series? It's been awesome so far. I gotta say, I heard, or read rather, in chat, somebody said that Chun-Li hasn't died in a competitive AWC match since 2010, and I believe that after watching this. It was truly crazy. But let's talk about Golden Guardians and how they've been able to pull this off so far. Zico, how are they able to grab this win?
Well, it comes down to the map. Like, what opens up all of these scenarios is the fact that Peekaboo gets uptime on Gurecki, on that monk. He gets to kind of, build up pressure there. And while he's doing that, he's keeping Gurecki, healing himself only, keeping Gurecki, out of line of sight of his team. And that gives WizK the freedom to kind of, okay, I'm going to fear you, Chun. If you kick me, I'm going to Chaos Bolt you. And that scenario there just kind of allows them to get pressure, to get people low. And, if Gurecki tops himself, they can still just blind him, and they're going to have a low target, and that's going to force his trinket, and that's going to set up win conditions later on. And I think the biggest thing here is that they didn't overcommit. If, a kill wasn't going to happen, they weren't afraid to just throw out defensive smoke bomb, throw out, just defensive gameplay, and just use Dark Soul on cooldown, just try to push Chun-Li off of WizK as much as possible. And all of a sudden, you're in dampening, and you still have a little bit of mana left. You still have a couple of key defensives left to work with. And, that play as well by Peekaboo in the end, the Shadow Step kick on the heel, and the Sheep Shot on Chun, and the Garrote on Thug, the rogue staff coming out. It's beautiful to see.
All the good rogue stuff.
You love to see it.
Rogue stuff.
Although I have to call out Peekaboo a little bit earlier when Chun did that miraculous, when he lived miraculously. Pretty sure he would have died if Pika just cheap shotted him. But
Yeah, cheap
it's
shot
fine.
Zediger out. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as that happened, I was like, no, why didn't you cheap shot, bro? You had that. But it worked out anyway for them, so good for them.
All right. Well, another thing that you did mention, Zico, before this game even got started, you were talking about how maps might actually come into play. What are you thinking as far as maps are concerned as we move into the next game?
100% Ashen Mains.
100% Ash mains. I'm waiting to...
It's not. It's not.
Is it going to be Muggle?
What?
Blade's Edge.
It's Blaze,
Blade's
bro.
Edge!
Oh, God.
Right, 100%
All the-
win for Golden Guardians. If we see a Mistweaver.
You think
On the
so?
side of space.
I mean,
Okay.
double rig a piece as a Destro Warlock is going to be so annoying. Like, even Shadow Priest are more mobile than Destro Warlocks with Fade and stuff. It's... I don't know.
Dude,
I
I
don't
love-
dislike it.
Using
They're
Ring of
giving
Peace
them a
on
win
it.
condition. They're
I-
like even if they knock them and stuff, at some point Peekaboo's going to be on top of the bridge and he's going to be able to step Kidney Goreki. On Ashermans, he's never going to be able to do that unless Goreki actually makes a positional error. I think that's why this has got to be a comp change. There's no way I see a Mistweaver on Space Station Gaming.
So, well, yeah, I mean, they picked the map, right? They could be setting up for something like that. Healing stat, what are you expecting to see on Blade's Edge?
I mean, I think for Golden Guardians, it has to be the RLS, right? Like, that Roguelike Shaman's been looking great. Space Station Gaming, like, the thing was, in Game 2, I actually thought they might cleave this. I feel like a cleave into, especially a DH cleave or something, like DHDK or something, into Destro Resto Shaman, that sounds horrible to play.
Is it Turbo time?
Or Turbo, yeah, like, something like that would surely crush the Destro Warlock. But you have to play it with Pala, I think. Because otherwise Peekaboo can pop off, maybe.
Do they actually
I
have...
don't know, man. I would be so scared for WizK.
Do they actually have
I
to...
wonder if Space Station Gaming plays Turbo.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
they
maybe
don't.
not,
Who's
actually,
the
yeah.
warrior?
Smexon's
Is a
both,
warrior
yeah.
and the shaman
Smexon's
and
both.
the DK.
Smexon's literally everything for like it's the same predicament that we got into where it was like Kara's literally everything for their cleave setups. Like I don't think that they have it unless like
Oh, here it is.
There we go. This is their cleave, right? This
Yeah,
is their
yeah.
version.
This
of
is their
Turbo.
Turbo.
I think this is a mistake.
I feel like DH Warrior might have been a better version. I really value the DH in some of these matchups, and I think it could be super scary.
I don't even like. I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like, well, I don't even. When's the last time Thugonomics played Demon Hunter? Like, I just feel like they're never gonna pick that.
Maybe.
To be honest,
I don't remember
like,
the last time he actually did
I don't.
play it.
Can you actually remember the last time Thugonomics played Demon
was
Hunter?
Legion.
Didn't you play some
General.
DH Windwalker or something? Nah, they've played it more recently than that. I'm fairly sure.
A long
Honestly, it's
Might
been
have
a
been
while
a
for
bit.
sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But the one thing I don't mind the DPS that much. I don't mind if it's a Windwalker or a DH or a Warrior. The thing that kind of bugs me about this comp is that we have a Mistweaver on a small map again.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna get punished.
So how can they avoid getting punished here? What do you want to see Space Station do to try to protect that potentially vulnerable target?
Well, they're gonna have to swap to Peekaboo. Like maybe if Chun can keep his port like far back, him and Smexin are hitting WizK. Peekaboo goes for the healer in the back. Then you can port on top of him and try to punish him, or knock him off and try to punish him. They're gonna have to immediately react to whenever Peekaboo is on their healer. They're gonna have to react and try to do a lot of burst damage because he takes a lot of damage and he's gonna be overextended. But if Peekaboo also like pre-evasions or gets to do what he wants a little bit, kind of predicts the swaps, it still just puts them in an uncomfortable situation when I feel like they could have just gone to a big map and not been in that situation at all.
All right. I'm excited to see how this one actually does go. Keep in mind, Golden Guardians can win it here. If they do, they move on to top 3, which is just a fantastic performance for them already. You have to say that, I mean, I think the Golden Guardians are going to be pretty happy no matter what happens. They hadn't top 6'd in a while, already making it to top 4, now looking to get to top 3. This is going to be a great performance from them. They've already had some consistency, grabbed down some points. Space Station Gaming, though, they are looking for a big performance, and that might be just snuffed out here as a dream for them for this week. As we do jump into Blade's Edge, let's see, is Golden Guardians going to be able to close it out here, or will Space Station Gaming extend the series all the way to Game 5?
I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've really missed the Arena World Championship because it's so hard to predict what happens, especially start of the season. Like, Think about the constants we've had. In Europe, we had barely any. It was all jungle cleaves and Wildcard almost getting toppled by Mistweaver jungle. And then here, we've got Golden Guardians who didn't... They just about scraped top 8 last week. Now they're looking good for top 3 with WizK on Warlock beating Thugonomics down. So it's like, what's next? I mean, the only thing that stayed consistent, and thank goodness, is Cloud9 just playing that ML and crushing everyone. But other than that, it's been anyone's game.
Thank goodness.
At least we have some consistency, okay?
Okay, I believe, yeah, change is scary, that's for sure. But we'll see how this goes. I mean, right now, I feel like the Ring of Pieces are going to be really annoying for WizK to deal with. Lots of Ring of Piece usage, knocking him off the edge, keeping him out of line of sight, making it really difficult. There we go. You can see WizK already being knocked off. See how much damage they can get going. Gorecki trinketing out of the blind, so no trinket. Fair trade, but now definitely vulnerable to some swaps and crowd control. Keep in mind, there is no Hex Dispel. If Absurge can sneak a Hex, it's going to be absolutely disastrous. And right now, it just seems like Golden Guardians, they've got all the pressure. Gorecki, he's in so much trouble. He's all by himself. He rolls in, almost dies, 10% health. Peekaboo going to help out his team right now, but Gorecki, once again, he's forced away. He's basically traded out all his defense at this point. And right now, Golden Guardians, although it's a bit scary for them having Smexen and Chun-Li in their face, I feel like Gorecki's a major vulnerability.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, WizK there, he actually got off like 3 Chaos Bolts with his Inferno, which means he's really stacking them up. I think he just set up a gateway there because he wants to gate in, press his wall, and really go for a one-shot on Gorecki soon because there's no Life Cocoon, there's no Trinket. That could easily be the setup they're looking for. They're trying to set it up now. Wall had to be used defensively though. Spacestation Gaming do have an offense of their own. We can't forget about that one. It's huge damage from Chun-Li and Smexen that really is starting to hurt WizK as well. And because of that pressure, Peekaboo's forced to retreat, and Gorecki, they don't get that perfect swap they were looking for. They're going to have to wait a little bit longer in this one.
That Smexen and Chun-Li, they're just going to be all over WizK in this matchup. Here it is. Peekaboo Shadow steps over, but they're trying to punish him. He's getting low. Trades out his Feign and his Cloak of Shadows as well as that lingering Psyche Shell. So exactly what we talked about. I mean, Chun-Li and Smexen, if they can catch Peekaboo trying to bully Gorecki like this, they can absolutely blow him up really quickly. So that's something the Golden Guardians are really going to have to think about here. If Peekaboo has no trinket, he is super susceptible to getting bursted down. But if Chun-Li and Smexen leave WizK alone for too long, that's when all of a sudden things get really dicey for their team. Full Hex snuck in nicely down there by Absurge as he gets knocked off. Peekaboo in a stun, they're making a big swap. Peekaboo's in so much trouble, they might just take him down right here, right now. Absurge with the clutch Spiritling Totem keeps them alive, but that was such a beautiful setup from Spacestation Gaming, and now Golden Guardians are flailing for their lives.
Yeah, I gotta say, Spacestation Gaming, the map is definitely working out. They're sending all these players down to ground zero 24/7. It's so difficult to get that connection over onto Gorecki when he's just playing on a tier above everyone else right now. It's really looking rough for WizK. I think for Golden Guardians, they'd almost benefit more from sitting downstairs, but then if Gorecki sits up, it's going to be really difficult to get those swaps. They're going to have to rely on hitting Smexen more and Chun-Li more. Chun-Li actually uses the Touch of Karma, maybe expecting some of that damage to be reversed onto him with the Smoke Bomb, but it was definitely a kidney shot on Smexen. Either way, both these melees super tanky. Now Chun-Li could get punished for that. The blind comes through, but it breaks. Unfortunately, it breaks on Gorecki. They don't even get the trinket, and that's disastrous for the Golden Guardians.
I mean, it really is. You kind of rely on that cooldown, getting the trinket. Now WizK and Peekaboo once again into the stun. Smexen and Chun-Li have been able to put out tons of pressure, but I mean, at the same time, there's good damage on Chun-Li and Smexen. They put a kidney shot on Chun-Li. Absurge gets a nice wind shear. Chun-Li actually getting bursted down. And keep in mind, there's no Touch of Karma. That is going to be the Life Cocoon. So until Life Cocoon rotates back up in about a minute, Space Station Gaming will be semi-vulnerable here. If we look at mana, just take a look at that. Absurge a little bit behind now. And I just don't know how much longer he can keep up with this damage. I mean, if there's one thing that the Arms Warrior and the Windwalker Monk brings, it is a big, consistent damage in this match.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a race against time for the Golden Guardians. And I mean, they have to wait 2 minutes before they can even use blind to get trinket back. They have to create something in those 2 minutes to try to get Gorecki's trinket before the blind maybe, because look at the cooldowns. WizK has nothing left. They're using the Vitality Conduit, but that's really the last line of defense. Absurge has no mana. They don't have the Spirit Link. The Unending Resolve is coming back up, and somehow, some way, that Vitality Conduit was able to top the entire team, so that's good news for Absurge there. We can see Space Station Gaming continuing the onslaught. Gorecki pushing in. Doesn't quite have his leg sweep off cooldown, but does get the in-cap to continue the pressure here, and they just don't have to worry about about anything. Look at Greg, he's just chilling upstairs. The WizK is never going to get back up there. Maybe you should set up a gateway or something, because right now they're just struggling to get any sort of pressure. The double coil comes through, but it's once again purely defensive. They don't even have the smoke bomb, but they do force out the life cocoon on Chun-Li slightly early coming in from Gurecki, and that again could set up an opportunity, a last opportunity for the Guardians.
What a bizarre way to play Blade's Edge Arena. I mean, look at this. Everyone is just dogpiled in front of the starter zone. I don't think we've seen something like this in quite some time. No one can really use the verticality because of the Ring of Pieces. Big Chaos Bolt's going to be landing, but Smexen in a stun with versatility will not be taking too much burst damage. Touch of Karma trades for Chun-Li, reversing a lot of that damage on WizK. WizK could absolutely be in some trouble here. Absurge with the Spirit Link Totem might actually have to trade. The damage might just be overwhelming, but a huge heal comes in from Absurge. I don't know what that was, but WizK gets topped off. 3% dampening. Once again, WizK looking for a Chaos Bolt. Stormbolt from Smexen saves the day. There's going to be no pressure on Chun-Li, but, I mean, Gurecki with Peekaboo all over him is really going to struggle to top off here.
Yeah, Peekaboo just destroyed Gurecki. It must have been a drastic F off center there. I mean, he went from about 80 to 50 instantly. But WizK is the person I'm worried for. Double stun comes through. Trinket Spirit Link from Absurge. Urban War Totem. That really is it when it comes to defense. And to be honest, mana is also dwindling for Absurge. This is looking very likely that we'll be heading to a Game 5 in this elimination series between two titans here in the North American scene. The winner of this goes through to top 3. Golden Guardians still have a chance in this one. They're looking for a kidney shot. They actually get 2 Chaos Bolts. Huge Chaos Bolts coming through. I don't know how WizK was able to sneak those through the 2 melees on Spacestation Gaming. Nothing short of a miracle, if you ask me. But equally so, the miracle comes through that Gurecki has survived it. And now his team needs to find the kill, because we've seen it before. If Absurge keeps his team alive forever and ever, they will win this game.
I don't know how much longer this game's going to go. A fear onto Absurge. WizK, he gates away, but he's all alone. He's in so much trouble. He's in execute range. Can they find the damage? Leg sweep onto Absurge. All 3 members of the Golden Guardians are getting rotted down, and there is no ascendance in sight. But it looks like they might be able to stay alive. Absurge pulling off absolute miracles here. Gurecki once again getting interrupted with the pre-life cocoon, though, is going to be able to survive. See another pummel on WizK. Chun-Li and Smexen, they just have to shut down WizK. And equally so, I mean, we need to see WizK get out some damage. Who's going to win that race? Gurecki in a kidney shot. Dressagath, Trinket lands. The Mortal Coil. Do they have the damage? Gurecki, Infernal Stun. They could take him out. Golden Guardians, they did it! They knocked Spacestation Gaming out of the tournament, claimed their spot in the top 3. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, we need to, like, this is, I cannot believe WizK was able to do it. I'm at a loss for words right now.
What a weekend.